How's everyone doing?
Hi.
Doing
See
good.
Ed Merrick there, my Facebook friend.
He's everyone's Facebook friend.
Good.
Yeah, this is the largest meeting I think we've had in a while, Lisa. 17 people I'm seeing. Yeah.
It looks like we're pushing the Rotaract. Now that Rotaract doesn't have an age limit, everyone's a Rotaractor.
Exactly.
So yeah, we're glad everyone was able to join tonight. We also have a guest appearance from my mom. My mom is on from Pennsylvania, so we really broadened out California to Pennsylvania. So everyone's able to join tonight. We do have some people I know that will be joining a little bit late, and we have a special welcome as well for our newest member, Aiden. So we'll get to that in a second. But typically for Twin Cities Rotaract, similar to a lot of other clubs, we start, well, maybe not like all other clubs because we're a lot smaller, but we typically go around and just say why, like something about us or as kind of an icebreakers to get to know people. So I thought that for this particular event, it would be fun to go down the list of participants and just say something that you, while you've been stuck at home, that you found that you're grateful for or that you've actually enjoyed about being quarantined, even though it's maybe not a super positive situation. I think obviously we all know there's something good within everything. So to just kind of go down the list, and I don't know if we all show at the top of our own list, but I show at the top of my list. So something that I've really enjoyed so far, and my husband is still working on the table with me, but has been just getting to spend more time at home together and like taking walks when we're in between meetings and everything. So time that we normally wouldn't spend together has been enjoyable. And then I think it's alphabetical after that. So I see Aiden next. And Aiden is, again, our newest member. We're really excited to have him, and we'll get to that in a second.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so as far as the quarantine goes, yeah, I mean, similar to Lisa, getting to go outside and go on more walks and slow down a little bit. So yeah.
Nice.
Go ahead. I think the ordering is a little different than who, yeah, is looking at it. So I think, Lisa, if you want to just keep reading off.
Yeah. Al, so I think you're up next.
Hi. Well, I'm retired, so there's not a whole big change. I think the thing I enjoy the most is I get to go to a lot more meetings because of Zoom. You know, I have gone to a couple of Sierra Club events, some Global Minnesota events, a bunch of Rotary things like this. I mean, you know, I've always wanted to come to a Rotaract meeting, but this is like, it's in my bedroom. How easy, much easier could
Yeah,
it be?
good.
So,
Glad to have you.
you know, I actually like Zoom. I just wish I'd bought stock in it a month ago.
Good. Michelle, it looks like you're next on my list. So.
Oh, I'm next. Hey, everyone. Thanks for coming. I think one of the best things that has happened since this quarantine is I've made a schedule and I've stuck to it. And one thing that's on my schedule that I look forward to every night is my meditation. And it's kind of like, you know, after a crazy day of being at home, it kind of keeps me at peace.
Good. So I lost the order that I was looking at. Hold on. Jim?
Jim, hi, Jim Hunt. Actually up at our cabin. We came for a week and we've been here 3.5 weeks and we'll be here for another month. So
Wow.
Good. Yeah, lucky you.
thanks.
Margie? I'm not sure if your audio is turned on for speaking. Okay, we can come back. Matt, and welcome, Matt. I think this is your first Rotaract event as well, so welcome. We're glad that you could call in.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, is there anything you've particularly enjoyed about the quarantine so far?
Being able to have plenty of time to exercise. I've been running almost every day. Good. That's really exciting. Yeah, definitely. I
I think I've lost my order now. It's like jumping around. Kathy.
Hi, this is Kathy Hewitt, and I'm like Matt. I've been out running or working out every day.
Good. John? We're just glad that you can be here with us. So is there anything else that you've been enjoying about being stuck at home?
Who?
Jon
Jon
Kaufman.
Kaufman?
I think you're the only one. I think you're
Oh,
the only
sorry.
Yeah, probably unusual for you.
Trying to figure this freaking camera out. Yeah, I've been enjoying Zoom until today. This is like really driving me nuts. You know, it's funny. I'm on maybe 3 or 4 Zoom calls a day, and last night we were doing a gala, 850 people on a Zoom call, and it was with the Asia Society, which I can explain later. But one of the honorees was Eric, forget his last name, but the founder of Zoom. And so he did a speech on Zoom, and it was glitchy as hell. So it was a little embarrassing to him, I think. But you know, it happens to the best of them, right?
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. Very cool. Alexander?
Hi, I'm Alex. I know John. I've been on 5 H2 Open Doors exhibitions, and I just wanted to attend the meeting and lurk in the background if you don't mind.
Awesome. No, we're glad to have you. Yeah, great to, we'd probably be interested in some of your comments later on the excursion. So yeah, we're excited to hear more about it. Brad?
Hi, I'm Brad, Roseville Rotary, and I think what I've enjoyed is that I've moved my office to the basement of my house, which makes it a lot easier at lunchtime to stick to my vegan diet that I started about 6 weeks ago. It's just been a fun experiment for me. I don't know that I could have done it if I was stuck in my office.
Great. Yeah, congratulations. That's very exciting. Kara?
Hi. Something that I've enjoyed is kind of going back to activities that usually don't do in the summer, like playing cribbage and doing puzzles and doing a little bit of sewing as well. So just activities that kind of get put to the back of the closet for the summer.
Awesome. Yeah, we're glad you made it. Ed and Sue?
Yeah, you get a twofer with us. St. Paul Sunrise, and I guess what I'm enjoying the most is getting locked in with my best friend.
I have to say, I'm really grateful that I don't live alone and that we get along.
So far.
Yeah, I'm sure you just found that out in these last 3 weeks that you get along.
We're retired, a lot different except for, you know, not being social, which we miss, but thank goodness for technology.
Yeah, definitely. Good. Greg Widener? Greg, I think you're muted. Oh.
Okay, how about now?
Yep.
Hi there, I'm Greg. I'm a friend of Rotary. My partner in the next room is an Edina Rotarian, and last year I was able to go down to Guatemala on the water project trip with those folks, and one of those fellas put me in touch with John, and I got a notice for this meeting, and I wanted to listen in, and I hope you guys will let me visit.
Awesome. Yeah, we're glad to have you. Good to hear about your experience as well. Kyle, I think you're next.
Sure. It's going decently around here. I guess in the last week and a half since we've all been quarantined, we potty trained our 2-year-old. So at least there's something looking up, but it means that we're running to the bathroom every 20 minutes with her to help her do her stuff. So it's great. It's great.
All right. Well, hopefully you got enough toilet paper before it was all gone too.
I hope so. I think about it every time.
Christy?
Is that me? Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Christy Purcell. I'm a member of the Northfield Rotary. And I have a new favorite coworker, which is my four-legged. I have a 10-month-old puppy, and she's been my office buddy. So that has been a nice part of the quarantine.
Awesome. Yeah, that's very exciting. Margaret Ann?
I am Lisa's mom, and you are not going to see me because I just got out of the shower. I just found out about this a few minutes ago, and I am loving that I get to be a part of this, and I'm actually really happy that I'm comfortable, even though I'm alone. I'm actually good company, even though I'm by myself. This is working out pretty well. So reading a lot of books and keeping busy. So thank you for inviting me, Lisa, and I'm looking forward to the meeting tonight, John. Thank you.
Yeah, good. This is her first Rotary meeting as well. So
wow, great.
Very familiar with Youth Exchange. My brother and I both went, so she's heard of Rotary a lot. Michelle Jurek?
Hi, I'm from the Prior Lake Rotary. I'm still heading to the office every day, but I absolutely love the fact that it only takes me 25 minutes instead of an hour to get to work. So
Definitely. Yeah, that's really good upside. Paul Meekin?
Hi, with St. Paul Club 10, and I think, I wasn't here for the question, but I assume it's like silver linings for all this, right? And for us, it's been just everyone's home and nice family dinners every night with our whole family.
Good. Very nice. Yeah. Paul Perez?
Yes, I'm also from the Prior Lake Rotary Club and current district governor for District 5960. I've started to exercise, but I've really enjoyed a little more free time and the naps I've been able to take. Little cat naps.
Yeah, I'm sure you need it.
I'm just being honest.
Finally, after all those Rotary meetings the last 8 months. So yeah, good for you.
I appreciate not all the driving I don't have to do as well. So
definitely. Sean?
Sean from the North St. Paul Maplewood Oakdale Rotary, and I guess getting a lot of projects done around the house that have been building up for the last 15 years.
Good. Feels good to check off those lists too. Valdi?
I like to tinker at night and work on my old snowmobile. So I get greasy fingers every night, and that's the best part of my day.
Good. That sounds like fun. And then Margie, is your audio working? Oh.
Is the audio turned off on her computer too? Like a mute?
I'm not sure, but Margie, if you want to type it in the chat, we'd love to hear what you're enjoying so far. So feel free to type in there. And then if everyone hopefully is familiar with the chat, John mentioned that during his presentation, it would be a good way to capture questions as well. So if you think of any questions while John's presenting, feel free to type them in there, and then we'll go back to them at the end. Good. All right. Well, thank you everyone for indulging me while we're getting started. We really appreciate, especially that people are from so many different clubs right now and all over the country, having the chance to just understand where people are coming from and what you're enjoying about the current situation. So the other thing I wanted to do before, John, you get started, and I promise I won't go too much longer, was just to induct Aiden. So Aiden just joined as a member, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, and is already working with Valdi on trying to start a potential grant project within the district. So we're super excited to have Aiden with our club. So on behalf of the Rotaract Club of Twin Cities Rotaract, it is my privilege to induct a new member. Aiden, you're beginning on a great adventure in leadership, friendship, and service to your community and your fellow man and people, your fellow people. You have been invited to membership in the Rotaract Club of Twin Cities. We have accepted you as a person of good character, high ethical standards, a person who has the heart of service. You have been invited to join Rotary, but through your own actions, it is that you become a Rotarian. So we encourage you to learn all that you can about Rotary, especially you're off to a great start, and to strengthen your own leadership and communication skills by actively participating in the activities of the club, the district, and the Rotary world through additional attending weekly meetings, social events, and service projects. You'll be provided many opportunities through your Rotary Club and district to enhance and expand your professional and personal skills, and these opportunities can provide great value to you. You will also be provided with many opportunities to provide service to others through club service, vocational service, community service, new generation service, and international service, known as our 5 avenues of service. Through your membership, you will enjoy a network of business leaders and professionals, and we commit ourselves to do our part in making you feel welcome in the club. When you join Rotary, we become a part of something bigger than ourselves. Beyond enriching our own lives and the lives of our family members, the relationships we build foster understanding across communities and cultures and the globe. I am proud to be a Rotarian, and it is my pleasure to provide you this pin. I don't know if you can see it. There's a pin. By which your fellow Rotarians and community at large will recognize you as a Rotarian, in this case, Rotaractor specifically. And we ask that you wear it proudly. It is also a challenge for you if you are willing. My challenge is for you to share the gift that has been given to you through membership and invite another person of the same qualities of character, reputation, and commitment to join our club within the next 3 months, or even attend something spreading the word, which I think you're already doing a great job. The honor of becoming a Rotarian is only surpassed by sponsoring a new member. With that, I declare you duly inducted to the Rotaract Club of Twin Cities. Rotaract, I think our name is backwards. When you shake the hand of one Rotarian, you are within reach of 1.2 million more. Together, we are working to enrich, ensure health, develop communities, and promote peace. So thank you for becoming a Rotarian today. You can't really shake your hand, but once we see you in person, then you'll get a lot of handshakes.
Yeah. So. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the lengthy introduction. But yeah, I'm really excited to get involved and speak more with you and everybody else. So thank you very much.
Great. We look forward to it. There's a lot more things in your bag, but the pin is obviously the most important. So. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And Paul, did you want to introduce Jon to get started?
Certainly. So thank you, Lisa. I'm pleased to introduce our special speaker tonight. Past District Governor Kyle Haugen met Jon in India last year, National Immunization Day. Kyle connected me with Jon a short time later. I read Jon's book, A Long Walk on a Dry Road, and it opened up my eyes. I appreciate Jon's viewpoints and his direct approach as he pursues his goal to help as many people as he can through H Open Doors. Through his journey, Jon has taken inspiration and passion and innovation, which has led to impact. I give you Jon Kaufman.
Thunderous applause. Thank you. Hey, Aiden, I don't have my share screen button. And you're muted, so I can't hear your response.
You should have the option in the bottom middle of your screen to.
Yeah, it's not there. I'm sorry about these glitches, folks. Here it is. I had to expand the thing. Okay, here we go.
And then you'll have to use which desktop or slideshow.
Yeah, let me know if you're seeing my my screen there.
Perfect.
Yep. Good. All right. Terrific. And again, I'm sorry about the video, but hey, isn't this fun to have these kinds of meetings with everybody from all over the country and you don't have to wear your pants? Kyle is especially happy about that. I don't know why. We can get into that later. It's really great to be here. and be with all of you. This looks like a very vibrant group, and welcome to the folks that are not members of Rotary yet. This will be, I think, a view into what, for me, Rotary is all about, which is the project aspect of Rotary. Whether it's in our own community or whether it's in villages or schools around the globe. To me, it's called Rotary International for a reason, and that's where you'll learn the biggest impact of what we're doing. And we're in a kind of a weird twilight zone right now because we're dealing with something that we have to deal with. You know, we're in quarantine for the first time since 1918, I guess. Maybe even in 1918 they didn't do these kinds of quarantines, and they probably should have, you know, in retrospect. And, you know, people are suffering in a lot of different ways economically, and my heart goes out to those that have caught this and have symptoms. And I hope today is Passover in the Jewish religion, and I hope this particular plague passes over all of your families. That's my greatest hope for all of you. So H2 Open Doors is kind of a funny name. I started this about 8 years ago when I joined Rotary specifically to do this project. And the name H2 Open Doors is a mashup. It's H2O meaning water technologies, and open doors meaning opportunities. And being able to employ water technology that is off-grid, green tech, and robust enough that it can create the opportunity for villages and schools to become self-reliant by selling purified water. Now, where I started from was with what is now called water.org. Water.org used to be called Water Partners before Matt Damon joined it, graced their board. And Water Partners was putting in a lot of wells and pumps, which is kind of the typical thing that water NGOs, non-government organizations, that's typically what is done. Probably 90% of what all water NGOs do is they put in pumps and wells. Now, to introduce you to what we're doing, I have this slide which shows the book that I wrote. And on the cover of the book, the book is called Long Walk on a Dry Road. And the cover of it has a picture that's typical all over the developing world. And typically what happens is a water NGO will put in a pump, usually a hand pump and a well. And yet the women walk 5 miles average with 40 pounds of water on their heads to the water point. So I'm not really sure what anybody accomplishes by doing that. And that was one issue that I had. I had another issue with Water Partners back before I joined Rotary, which was I had made a very large contribution, very large. And the reason why I even got into this space at all is explained in the first chapter of the book. But the problem I had was I also own a marketing company in the Silicon Valley. And after I had made this contribution, I'm reading their brochure that they had just come out with. And it basically said, last year we put 1,000 wells in Kenya. And this year we're going to put 1,000 wells in Ghana. So send us money. And I said, you know, I need to get, you know, after making this contribution, I need the board to convene because I want to meet with the whole board. So 3 people showed up. And they said, John, what's the problem? What's the matter? And I said, well, you should be saying last year we put 1,000 wells in Kenya, and this year we're going to go back and fix the 40 to 60% that are inoperable. Because at any given time on Earth, there's between 40 and 60% of pumps and wells are simply inoperable for lots of different reasons. Most commonly, the water table has shifted. You know, these are generally shallow wells that with a hand pump, and so they're intended for communities of 60 to 200 people at most. And you know, things happen, and the average lifespan of a typical pump with on top of a well, hand pump on top of a well, is about 3 years. So not very sustainable. So I joined Rotary, and 2 weeks later, I went to my first Rotary International Convention in Bangkok. And I headed over to the Wasrag booth. And the Wasrag booth is the Water and Sanitation Action Group. And I encountered everybody from Ron Denham on down, involved in it. We're pretty depressed people, to tell you the truth. This is my first impression. And it's kind of what I found, in the regular water NGO world as well, because they were plagued with unsustainable projects. The projects at that time just weren't sustainable. They weren't lasting. They were, in many cases, a big waste of money, and weren't sufficiently vetted. And so, by the time I went there about 8 years ago, the big go-to thing was something called the life straw. That's what everybody was using. Millions of dollars were spent. And I'm going to talk about all this stuff. If you want to get more information about H2 Open Doors, by the way, you can go to h2opendoors.org, and also every day we update at on our Facebook page. There's always new content there. So this is where I have to warn you. This is my disclaimer that what I'm about to say about Rotary, about NGO, but mostly about conventional wisdom, conventional thinking. It might upset some of you older Rotarians. When I say older, I mean, I should have said experienced Rotarians, because many of you have been involved in water projects and you know a lot about it. But I'm going to talk about it from the point of view of just an 8-year-old Rotarian. I'm a major donor to the Rotary Foundation. I love Rotary. It is, this is my family. You are my family. And so kind of like Ross Perot used to say, I'm like the grain of sand in an oyster, irritating the oyster, and then a pearl appears, So that's what I'm hoping to do. And so please take it the way it's intended, which is to make things better, I hope. When we're doing projects, one of the first things that I think we ought to do, and Rotary especially is well qualified to do this, is that these projects ought to promote self-reliance. They ought not to promote continued dependence. Those of us that have been in this audience, that have been on international Rotary trips, we're all very used to arriving back in the village that we were in a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and them handing us a punch list. Okay, we need this. Can you bring this? Can you raise money for this or that? And I feel like the Kiwanis Club, the Lions Club, the Optimists, the water NGOs, they're all well suited to be relief agencies, I suppose. But Rotary in particular, if you think about our roots, is really well suited to develop enterprise and to enable a village to become self-reliant. So all the projects that we do, we try to do where they are involved in establishing an enterprise, and we'll go on with that. The other thing is, because we don't want to be called Buana, we don't want to be just the givers. I mean, Rotary is our mentors, we're business people, we're the leaders of our community, and we don't want to just be giving and giving and giving. We want to train people and mentor people towards self-reliance. But also, what about dignity? Now, I talked about the life straw, and when I was told by Wasrag that over $1.5 million worth of life straws had been purchased by Rotary clubs throughout the previous year to hand out. Well, what about dignity? And I call it the grandmother test. If you're going to do a project and you wouldn't have your own grandmother be the beneficiary of that project in that way, then you ought to question why you're doing that project at all. Are you just doing that project that way because it's a cheap and expedient way to do it? Is it something about our guilt that we must provide anything? And this is where the Buana comes in, where we run the risk of having the attitude that, well, these people, they're poor and they're desperate, so anything that we give them, they'll appreciate. Always use the grandmother test. And if your grandmother shouldn't be stooping in a river, sucking through a life straw, then then don't do that project. And then also, is it sustainable? Now, I'm not going to mention this organization, although their name is on the product there, but they have been victimizing Rotary clubs for years. Millions and millions and millions of dollars have been going to organizations, separate 501c3s, outside organizations, that know that Rotary people aren't that sophisticated about various, in particular, water projects. And so what they provide is an assessment, and I've seen many of the assessments, and the assessments go towards the global grant to create, creating a global grant. And I've seen so many of these. And the typical way that they do this is they list a bunch of items in the assessment, and then they give you a grand total. They don't give a total of each line item, just the grand total. And one of those line items on all of their assessments is consultancy. So that's problematic. So the problem with this particular approach, with this particular organization, I've had to pull out literally 5 of these in the 33 installations that I've done so far around the world, because what this does is, in a cage at the bottom, it has pumps. It draws the raw water from through the pumps, and then draws through and mixes in the media that's on the top. And that could be chlorine, it could be biosand, it could be whatever. And the obvious problem is what happens when they run out of the chlorine or the biosand or whatever media that they're using. Well, it just goes rusting. They don't go back. They don't go back to the village. And the village is literally high and dry. But sustainability of the project that you put in, and when I say sustainable, I'm meaning, at least 10 years, at least. When these fail in 3 years or 2 years, whenever the media falls, that's just one of the problems. The other problem is US EPA quality in terms of water. And again, why, just because of accident of birth, the people in these villages, in Tanzania, in Haiti, in Guatemala, in Nepal, and all these places we go, why don't they deserve the same quality of water that you and I enjoy? I mean, it's just by accident of birth that they're living their way, and we're suffering through our quarantine in our beautiful homes. What are they suffering through right now? So at least what we can do is, if we're going to do a water project, that water project ought to produce water that's of US EPA quality. Well water, by the way, is not US EPA quality. And we shouldn't do it on the cheap. I mean, just to save a little money to get it done, to provide them with water that you've stuck a straw into the earth, that's not good enough. Good enough is not good enough. And it's really not ethical. And then the other thing that we want to do is we want to break this notion that women have to spend their entire day gathering water and walking 5 miles for water on their heads. So what we do when we establish water plants in the H2 Open Doors methodology is we distribute the water. We bottle the water into 5-gallon bottles, and then we distribute. We set up a distribution system, and it employs people to distribute the water and to bring it to the huts, bring it to the schools, bring it to the community centers. The women then can go back to doing what they should be doing, taking care of their children, cooking, maybe even getting an education, maybe even starting their own business. Gives them opportunity as well. That's the open doors part of H2 Open Doors. And this is the scene that you see everywhere you go in the developing world. This was in Haiti. I had asked this woman how far she goes for the water, and she says she doesn't know how far. She only spoke French Creole, so this is being interpreted. But she said to me, it takes me 2.5 hours to get there and 2.5 hours to get back. And she does this every day. That's 5 gallons. That weighs 40 pounds. It's incredible. So that's what the cover of the book is about. And then the book is about the adventures that we've gone on. And I'm hoping that this will inspire many of you to join some of our expeditions as our merry band of water warriors go through the earth putting in water plants. This was last month, was Water and Sanitation Month, and this is the little graphic that came out from Evanston. And the next time you see Evanston or even your club or anybody with an impulse to talk about water with a device that you would offer to a cow, a pig, a horse, complain about it, because we can do better than this. And this should not be our slap on our backs of congratulations that we do so much about water. This is an outrage. So I'm going to show you a little animation. As I said, I own a marketing company, and sometimes the best way to describe a system is by cartoon, maybe from our Tom and Jerry days or our Bugs Bunny days. I just think it's best. This is a minute and a half, and I think you'll get most of the point through this through this video. So I hope it works and the audio works for you.
In the world's poorest communities, the cost of bottled water is out of reach, let alone education, nutritional programs, and electricity. But with a little technology and a whole lot of soul, H2 Open Doors can transition communities out of generational poverty in as little as a year. We provide villages with an ultrafiltration system that turns contaminated water into drinking water that is 99.999% microbiologically pure. Each SunSpring hybrid uses over 5 miles of membrane strands to remove all bacteria, cysts, and viruses. The new SunSpring can produce up to 10 gallons of water per minute, 24 hours a day, using zero fuel, electricity, or chemicals with no cost of operation. Rotary clubs in the region mentor the village as they use SunSpring to launch a sustainable water bottling enterprise that can generate over $100,000 per year. Community members also learn to care for the equipment and receive microfinancing for items like family water bottles and sanitation supplies. Imagine the dignity and self-reliance that comes from quickly learning a business that helps to pay for their own education, healthcare, and more. To learn more and even participate in our expeditions, find us on Facebook and visit h2opendoors.org.
So I hope that audio is okay. Lisa, give me a thumbs up if you could hear that okay. Okay, good. Okay, so I just want to, I'm going to go through slides fairly fast here because I'm going to run up on the time limit when people start drinking too much. No. This is a slide that I made about the membranes itself. And the membranes are the key to this. Instead of just chlorinating water and killing the bacteria that's in the water or the viruses, and then you're drinking a bottle or a glass of dead bacteria, our systems actually remove that bacteria. They remove the particulates, the contaminants. And if the big red circle is the biggest one is a coffee ground, and then next to that is beach sand. So these are relative sizes of particulates. Then table salt, then the diameter of a human hair. Then the last red one showing is pollen. That's one bit of pollen. Then the next one is that yellow one. That's the limit of visibility. So you can't see, your human eye can't see anything that small relative to all those others. Then white blood cell, then smoke, which is actually particulates in the air. Then a red blood cell. Are you starting to get the idea here? Then you get down to a bacteria. And then the smallest one down there at the bottom is called a micron. That's not a thing, that's a unit of measurement, 1 micron. So a reverse osmosis system, which is a membrane system as well, and many of you may have heard of reverse osmosis, that's a 0.005 micron. The pores in the spaghetti membrane that's 5 miles of spaghetti, think of it, that's hollow all the way through each strand, and the pores that are along the side of it, in which we're going to push water at pressure through those pores, is 20 nanometers or 0.02 in micron, 0.02 micron. Now a virus is 0.05 to 0.1 micron. So the pores that are in the sunspring system are smaller than a bacteria. They're smaller than a virus. And by the way, including the polio virus and including this lovely virus that we're dealing with right now. So 0.02 micron is the size of the pores. So the water gets pushed through. Now, the secret to what we're doing with the Sunspring's made in Colorado. It's a fantastic piece of equipment, but you could have the best piece of equipment in the world and it's not necessarily going to be sustainable. It's not going to be impactful because to me, it has to be done. And this is why I joined Rotary. Instead of starting my own 501c3, I just found a technology that I wanted to use. The secret is in Rotary. So ours is we have a donor advised fund at the Rotary Foundation. We are not a 501c3. We're a replicable model that we want other districts and other clubs to use if they choose. And so we're consultants in doing a sustainable and a proper enterprise water model. And it works because Rotary employs the 3 M's. Well, the 3 M's are, this is what especially our Rotary club partners that are in the country, in country. The 3 M's are, we are awesome mentors. You know, we're not really, Rotarians aren't really great at doing the day-to-day business. That's not what we do. That's not what Rotary is about. But we're great mentors. We're made up of community leaders and business leaders. We know how to run businesses. We know how to run organizations. And so we're perfectly positioned to help train the villages on how to run a business with good governance and best practices and transparency. The second M is really all about monitoring because we're great at oversight as well. So monitoring the proper use and the proper maintenance of the equipment. And then the third is microfinance. We are excellent microfinance. And those 3 M's together, besides being extremely delicious, are very effective. And that's our secret sauce in Rotary. So as I said, I've done 33 installations with my team of about 85 water warriors in 11 countries. And this is our end product. This is what it looks like. The polycarbonate bottles that you see on water coolers everywhere, these can be provided for in every single country. There's a blow molder in every place we've gone that makes these. We sanitize the bottles and then fill them and then distribute them. Here's what a typical plant looks like. This was the pictogram we used when Kyle went to India. He saw this in person because basically over on the right, we see a borehole. And in India, outside of Agra, we had to do a borehole that one was about 250 feet. We have tanks where we take the raw water, we put a submersible solar pump down into that borehole. It keeps the tanks filled all the time with raw water. Then the pump in the Sunspring draws that water under pressure against the membranes and sends the purified water into that building. We had to build the building. We had to put the solar panels on top of the building. And we have a sanitized building that does sanitizes the bottles first and then fills them. Now the enterprise model provides that its capacity can fill up 1,000 of those 5-gallon bottles every day. But assuming that you just do 500 bottles every day and you distribute them, and assume that you sell them for 54 cents a bottle, which is about 3 cents a liter, which that seems to be the sweet spot anywhere we go. And this could be Haiti, this could be India, this could be everywhere we've gone. 3 cents represents about between 1/2 and 1/6 of what the cost is for clean water. Now, when I say clean water, sometimes it's purified and sometimes it's not, but this is water that gets sold. So typically that, when it's 6 cents to 25 cents a liter, it's too expensive for the poor. They can't afford it. So at 3 cents a liter, they can afford it. And if you sold 500 bottles at 3 cents a liter or 54 cents a bottle, that's $270 each day. That's about $100,000 in revenue that by MOU, by memo of understanding, that village or that school must use that revenue solely for social services that are in conformity with our 6 areas of focus. So this is the rule. And I'll tell you how it worked with India just in the first couple of months. This was the one in Guatemala in January. We worked with the Edina Club and who are most interested in the Escuintla Hospital. And the Escuintla Hospital is fascinating. We put in 3 systems. We put in a system on the roof of the Escuintla National Hospital in Guatemala. And then we put this one on the roof of this one is actually in Santa Lucia, Utitlan, which is a municipality. And they are selling the water. This is to raise money for the municipality's education, health, and environment budgets. That's what it looks like open, by the way. And you'll see there's batteries at the bottom, 24-volt marine batteries, a pump on the pump shelf above that. Then you'll see the blue filter thing there. That's a pre-filter, and that's even stainless steel. You clean it, you don't replace it. So there's virtually no consumables, no cost of operation on this. And then the membrane system is that diamond plate system. You'll notice a square panel there. That's a backflush controller so that it backflushes the bad stuff that gathers around the outside of the membranes. And then there's a pressure tank. There's a solar panel above and a wind turbine. This is off-grid and clean technology. This is called the wall spring. So at a school in Guatemala in January, we installed this. While the sun spring costs $21,000 and then figure about $25,000 landed, the wall spring is everything that's in the sun spring, but you already have electricity and you already have water pressure coming to it. It's a third of the cost. It's about $7,500 for literally 3 of those for the cost of 1 sun spring. So where we have projects where we can count on electricity and we can count on water pressure, we can use the wall spring. And this is, again, it does the same amount of water. It produces, 1,000 of these bottles every single day. And they're distributed in all different ways. I don't know if you could see, but in Swahili, the label says purified water over on the left there. This was in Puerto Rico. We've got 6 systems in Puerto Rico right after the Typhoon Maria there. So this is the India story. When Kyle was there, the Prior Lake clubs and everybody, they had contributed money for these rickshaws, these flatbed bicycles, and they were distributing the water that they were producing in the plant on these rickshaws and driving it into town. 20,000 people live in a neighboring town. And the parents were doing this, raising money for the school, and they were getting 10 cents for every, the bottles were selling for 90 cents, they were getting 10 cents, and 80 cents was going back to the school for each bottle. And it wasn't becoming efficient after a while because it's a dirt road, it's a long way. And so to supplement that, Rahul Wadhwa, who's the head Rotarian there, kind of the sponsor of all this, said they had earned in their first 3 months $8,000 US from the sale of water. So could they waive their requirements on their MOU, which was to spend it only on the 6 areas of focus, and could they get our permission to buy this truck, which is a CNG truck, and it make them a lot more efficient? So of course, so that's how they spent their first $8,000. It was just wonderful. These 2 guys we met in the Masai Mara, and Prince actually stayed with me in California for 2 months and I took him to his first movie. He'd never been in a movie theater, and guess what we saw? I took him to The Lion King, and he's sitting there, and I didn't tell him that this was, an animated feature. So the opening credit show and the tigers are walking around, and then they start to talk, and then Prince gives me a look like, what the heck is going on? So that was my experience. Then I took him golfing and bowling, and I really corrupted him. But in the Masai Mara, the culture there is the elders are, by age, they're in their 80s. But the true elders, the operational elders, the people that those elders count on are guys like this who are in their 30s who went to university in Nairobi, and they've come back. You know, the Mara culture is still in their blood, and they want to give back. So Prince in particular is a mechanical engineer. And he was telling us when we went there, we had gone there to just go on game drives after one of our other installations on the other side of Kenya. And we went on safari game drives, and they hosted us, and they were great hosts. But they told us a story. The women, the Maasai women, who have always been marginalized, always been, you know, the ones in charge of gathering water, would have to get their water from the river every day. They'd have to walk about a mile, 2 miles. But the problem was what Prince and Amos were telling us was that something serious happened about a month before we had gotten there. This is a recreation of one of the Maasai women's sisters. She's showing us what happened to her sister. This is a borehole created by elephants. When it's a drought, in the riverbeds, elephants come out and they pound with their leg and with their tusks to create a borehole. And then when it rains, it fills up with water. Well, that's for the elephants. So this woman's sister was doing what she's doing right now, and an elephant came out of the bush and trampled her to death. And at the same time, during that same week, another one of the Maasai women had 2 children dragged away by tigers. I mean by leopards. So they had an extra special danger besides being in a drought condition, that, you know, they're competing for water with wildlife. So they asked us, you know, what could we do? What did we have to do to be able to have you do for what you did on the other side of Kenya to do for us? So I gave them both 2 conditions. The first condition is you have to sell the water. You have to create, well, we're going to create a water plant for you, but then you have to sell the water. And the second condition is, and they were fine with that. The second condition was the women have to run this enterprise. And they gulped. They said, whoa. So they had to convene a meeting the next month there's 20 clans making up 20,000 people in Talek, Mara. And they had to get an approval from all the elders from all these clans to have the women, for the first time ever, make a decision about money. Now remember, we're talking about $100,000 US a year. And they approved it, and then we came back and we started doing our project. And that's the first day that the borehole was done. In this particular case, the same kind of plant that I showed you before, this one was a 650-foot deep well, very, very deep well. And this, for the first time ever, this is what they witnessed. And that's just the raw water coming out of the well. Well, let me tell you, this was Christmas Day in the Mara, as you can imagine. So that's the Sun Spring. That's the building that we had to build as part of it. The borehole is kind of a little bit off screen. These are the 5 women that run the water enterprise in the Maasai Mara. And this was the training. We even had one of our trainers is Mary Jo. She's been on 6 different expeditions with us and is fully trained. So she trained those women on how to do the maintenance procedures. And that's Queen Mary of the Mara. She's the most popular woman in all of the Mara. And she's in charge of this entire project. When we were there, we also, this is Mary's son. And this is their brand is the Ankari Sadai, which is Ma for purified water. And this is my friend Michelle. She used to be my girlfriend, but we're still good friends. And she was being made an honorary Maasai. And the brand here is being franchised already, because our plans are to go back in July and do a mirror image on the other side of the Mara in an almost identical village on the other side. Same amount of people, same issues, same MOU. And when they came to Prince and they said, how can we get this at our village? Prince said, well, there's 3 requirements. Wait, we heard you only had 2. Yeah, the third is you have to brand it as Ankari Sadai. Basically, they want a franchise, which is wonderful. I love it. This is how everybody was getting water before. Donkey carts, with 20-liter jerry cans, muddy water, and they were actually paying 1 penny a liter. Now for 3 pennies a liter, they get purified water. So big impact on this. And then we also put in a bamboo forest when we were there. And then we go on game drives. The other thing we do is we put in Rachel, which is, and I know I've got to speed it up here because we're getting close to 6. Lisa, you close it off at 6, right? I mean, at 8, your time.
Yeah, we do. But I think kind of because people are virtual, if people need to drop off, they are obviously free to, but I mean, I'm okay if you want to keep going and another, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll be done in 10 minutes, I think.
Okay.
Okay. All right, moving on. So Rachel stands for Remote Area Community Hotspot for Education and Learning. Every time we go out and we do a water project, we grab some of our participants and they start to put these in. And this costs, you're not going to believe this, it costs $850. That's all it costs. And what it is, it's a server where a school doesn't have internet and they don't have educational supplies. And if they're lucky, they have, chalk. Most of them really have no way to access any educational content from the internet. What this does is this creates a Wi-Fi spot. It's got internet content loaded onto it. It's got all of Wikipedia, all of the great books. It's got TED Talks. It's got all of the Khan Academy, and it's in dual language. So when we put it in India, it was Hindi and English. When we put it in this one, this is in Guatemala, it's in Spanish and English. You toggle back and forth. When it's in Tanzania, it was in Swahili and English. So we also, a lot of times, will bring computers. Sometimes they may have computers, but a lot of times they don't. So most of the time, we'll just bring 10 or 12 Chromebooks and set up a computer lab. But literally, for so little money, we're creating such permanent improvement. And then in Guatemala in January, what we did was we did 3 eyeglass clinics. We have an NGO here in California that gets all the Foster Grant glasses, the kind that you see in the drugstores. They're readers. 90% of the people in the developing world that need glasses just need readers. They don't need, prescription. Their eyes are stressed the same. And so these are from 1.5 power all the way up to 3.5 power. I literally brought 500 to Guatemala and it cost us $300. And we did clinics. And that was, that was incredible for these people that didn't even know that they needed glasses. And then they start to have these epiphanies of being able to finally read or sew or do, fine work. And so these are our Rotarians fitting people with glasses. And then in Escuintla in Guatemala, and again, the Edina Club is very much involved in this particular hospital. We were told by John Crudelli, some of you might know John Crudelli in the Eden Prairie Club. He came through Hamburg at the Rotary International Convention where we were displaying the Sunspring, and he handed me one of those stupid assessments of $300,000 where they were going to go in and fix the water issues and some other issues at the Escuintla Hospital. And they were about to file a grant. And then he said, but I'm looking at this, tell me about it. And so I said, look, before you do that grant, before you act on that grant, let us come in, go to this hospital and fix their water issue. And we'll do it without any cost to your club because we have other clubs in Northern California that we already raised money to do a project, and we'll do it here. And what Escuintla in particular was experienced was between 5 and 11 infant deaths per month. 40 children a day are born at the Escuintla Regional Hospital. It's the largest hospital as far as births in all of Latin America. People come from all over Guatemala for all sorts of things, but the pediatrics unit here is the busiest in Latin America. But 5 to 11 infant deaths per month attributed directly to their water, because what had happened 2 years before was the septic system of the neighborhoods that surround the hospital failed, and the water table got completely infected with E. coli. So what we did was this. Here's Willie and Sophia, and again, some of you may know them because they've been out to Minnesota quite a bit. they run the pediatrics floor, the 3rd floor. And literally in 1.5 days, we had the Sunspring up on the roof, and we had all the piping repiped to go into the 3rd floor, and all of the water to the toilets, to the sinks, to the lab, to the showers, to everything on the 3rd floor were purified, perfect water, and they are today. And I asked, yesterday I was on the phone with Sophia, and I just asked her for an update on baby deaths, and she said there have been no baby deaths since that day that the water became purified. So that's got to tell you about impact. The other thing about impact is we get involved and we think about not just our own 6 areas of focus, but the 17 sustainability goals, the SDGs. Number 6, by the way, is clean water for everyone by the year 2030. Number 8 is decent work and economic growth for everyone by the year 2030. These are the SDG goals, 2 of them. A subset of number 8, decent work and economic growth, subset is ending modern slavery and trafficking and child labor. So I was fortunate enough right around, I think this week, or maybe next week of last year, to go to the Vatican to speak on the concept of what if we combined, this was my topic, number 6 and number 8, clean water enterprises, and immediately elevated women out of poverty into the middle class within the first year, making them less vulnerable to modern slavery, sex trafficking, and that they could afford to take care of their kids so the kids didn't have to get sold off into child labor. So this is me and Brian Rush, who's knows every Nobel laureate in the world. He got me a speaking engagement at a meeting of the Global Sustainability Network in the Vatican, at the Vatican Gardens. And it was held in the Pontifical, the Pontifical Academy, the Pontifical Academy of the Vatican. The first president of the Pontifical Academy, Pontifical Academy of Sciences, the first president of that was Galileo. That's how old this institution is. And that's where our meeting was. And I talked about this particular subject, and it was quite interesting because most of the lanes of conversation about human trafficking and child labor and so on were legislation, were law enforcement, and were kind of shine a light, like shine a light on the issue. My point was, hey, I'm a Rotarian. Rotarians really get on the ground and we solve some issues. Imagine if we put in 1,000, over the next year, if we put in 1,000 water purification plants that employed all these people, and raised women, imagine what that would do. And at the same time, providing, several million people with purified water. That's the group of people, several Nobel laureates in the group. I'm in the back there just being amazed about it. Bishop Sanchez is in the middle there. He is called the Pope's Bulldog. Whenever there's a priest anywhere in the country that's gotten in trouble, anywhere in the world, they get a visit from Bishop Sanchez, who basically sends them to the woodshed. Now, child labor, let's talk about this. The person on the left and the person on the right, it's the same person, Charlize Theron, right? Gotta love her. And women in general go from looking like they do on the left to the hope to look like the person on the right by using mica, and they don't even know it. And mica is this mineral that's in foundation that you put on your face. And mica is created by these children. And currently, the estimate is that there are 20,000 children in child labor creating the mica and chopping it down into little wafers to send to the cosmetic companies. I mean, this is incredible. So in the US, we have another form of child labor, but I won't get into that. So 2 months ago, Brian Rush and I were able to go to India. We spent a week doing various meetings, and one of those meetings was with Kailash. Kailash Satyarthi is on the right. He won the Nobel Prize the same year, 2014, that Malala won the Nobel Prize. That was a split award. A lot of people don't know that. But what Kailash is most famous for is freeing 90,000 child slaves to date. 90,000 child slaves. He has a SWAT team that basically goes into these factories and frees these children. And then they go into his ashram to get processed while they're waiting to reunite their families. And this is us at the ashram. This is Brian at the ashram. And they put on, the kids at the ashram put on a little show, and then we had a dance. Fierce. I mean, just so much energy. So I'm going to skip this. Let's skip this. So a $25,000 SunSpring installation is big impact. It's 18 million gallons of purified water over 10 years at a cost. If you amortize that $25,000, it's a tenth of a penny per gallon. It's got a potential for $100,000 per year for the social services of that community. It eliminates the need for women to walk miles for water. It creates an independent village, not a dependent village. It enhances the dignity and elevation of women. And obviously, it provides improved health and nutrition. This is a new version. We have the SunSpring, we have the Wallspring being built, and then also being built out of Colorado is something that I've nicknamed the Shed Spring. And it looks like this, where it's several wall springs in conjunction. And it's for municipalities, either in the third world or in America. This one is going into Branson, Colorado, where they have a tank, an 80,000 gallon tank. You see these all over the Midwest, and it's going to be pumping up purified water into this tank, and then from the tank distributing to all the households in that community of about 100,000 people. So there's lots that we can do on a small scale, on a big scale, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So any questions that you have, feel free. Thanks for the clap, Ed. Let's see, I can't get back to there was probably some chat questions, which I can't see. Well, anyway, if Lisa, if you could unmute everybody, people could pitch in questions if they had them.
I think people can unmute themselves. I think they should be able to. And so, Valdi, your question about longevity, is that, do you want to elaborate? I think you should be able to unmute.
Thank you very much. I'm just kind of curious about longevity. With that solar panel and wind turbine, how long have these systems been in service? We see a lot of third world examples where things are good for a couple of years, then fall apart.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I spent about a year vetting this particular one. They've only been out for 12 years. There's about 550 of the SunSprings out in the world in, I think, about 30 countries. I've only done 33 of them in 11 countries. I've never had an issue. But the oldest ones, the first one that I did was 8 years ago in Thailand, no problems. And then and then ones that were done a couple years before that, there haven't been any field problems at all. All the problems are more about the water source. They're not about the technology. The most expensive components of it are the most expensive component is the membrane housing. That's about $6,000 of that $21,000 cost. That could be changed in the field, but that particular module is made, well, it was made by GE, and then Suez came in and bought out GE Water. So it's a GE membrane, and it is warranted for 10 years. The solar panels that we use, everything is American made. The solar panels are 10-year panels. And then the wind turbine, there hasn't been any issues with the wind turbine. The batteries are 10-year batteries. I have seen situations where the batteries have drained for whatever reason, And I have seen situations where the pump that's in it gets, it bogs, like the water is so dirty coming in, muddy or whatever, that the pump starts to run dry. We always supply a spare kit. Part of that $21,000 is a spare kit with a separate pump and everything. But we're always in contact with everybody to make sure that everything is running. One of these days, and out of the 33 that I've done, I've only got one that's inoperable, and that's in the Philippines. There's one in the Philippines. It's inoperable, but it's inoperable because they ran out of raw water, and I've been unsuccessful in getting them a new source for raw water. So we were planning to go there this year, but everything's pushed until next year. But in those situations where there's a problem, one of the things that we like to do is we like to install in clusters. And then the reason why we like to install in clusters is because we like to have a tech team that's trained on the system that lives there. And sometimes in the village, they can do the maintenance work every month. We can train them on how to do the maintenance work. That's very simple. But we also like to have a cadre of people in each of the countries that we work in that have a little bit more technical aptitude and also speak English, that can talk with us, whenever there's an issue. And they actually all are on a quarterly, all of them, that cadre in each one of these countries actually does a physical quarterly check on each one of the sunsprings that are in their area. But I don't have a country at all that I don't have that technical cadre that actually lives there. They're people that actually live there. Some of whom we pay, and like $50 a quarter, it's like, it doesn't have to be much. And some of them, they just do it out of the goodness of their heart. And some of them happen to be Rotarians. So that's really key to sustainability. The whole point of me doing this project and creating this within Rotary was to fight against this issue of the unsustainability of water projects in general. So great question. Any others?
How have you gone about kind of selecting the different location or the next location when you're thinking about doing a new project, aside from kind of clustering?
For the most part, we're pretty much at every Rotary International conference, and you get these people from all over the world. If you've not been to a Rotary International conference, oh my God. And Honolulu is going to be incredible, but the next one I guess is in Taiwan. Is that right, Paul? Taiwan, I think. And you get people dressed in their native, gear, and they come through and they walk through the House of Friendship. And for those of you that are new to Rotary, the beautiful thing about a Rotary International conference is we've all been to trade shows, right? We've all been to big conferences. And there's keynote speakers, and there's plenaries, and there's breakout sessions. And then there's this big trade show, floor show, right, of trade exhibits. And the difference with a Rotary convention is every single exhibit, it's like, 500, 600 different exhibits, are all projects for the most part, like 95%. They're projects. They're people, they're volunteers like me, they're volunteers like you that have a passion project that they can talk about. And they can talk about it with people, usually 30,000 Rotarians come through, right? And you just walk up and down this aisle. You cannot help, I promise you, if you've never been to one. You walk up and down what's called the House of Friendship, looking at these projects, and you will get to know what Rotary is all about in your first day of walking through that. And you will also become extraordinarily optimistic about our world. You will not be stressed that we are doomed to this kind of lifestyle that we're stuck in now, because the 6 areas of focus and what Rotary is able to do, represented by hundreds and hundreds of projects at the House of Friendship, is truly awe-inspiring and inspirational, and you will be uplifted. So anyway, that's where most of the people tell us their needs, and then if it falls into where we're already clustered, it's a no-brainer. We've been doing about 7 to 10 installations a year so far, And so in Guatemala, for instance, that was, we were there for 9 days. We put in 3 installations, and we already had 3 there. So now we have 6 in Guatemala. So, you know, if somebody was to, you know, get in touch with me and they're a club and they're passionate about Guatemala, meaning they've already had an investment in Guatemala, they've already done stuff in Guatemala, we're there in a hot minute. You know, let's do it. I'm very excited about it. If it was somebody, I've got somebody new, a Rotarian out of Quebec that wants us to do Peru. We've never been to Peru. So yeah, I'd love to do Peru, but I want more Rotarians that are passionate about Peru so we can do 3. I don't want to do just 1 at a time, because like I said, I want the infrastructure of having a technical cadre and make it, you know, efficient to have, you know, enough in one area to make sense. So that's kind of part of our decision. The other part is I give the 10 commandments of a water project. I say that because I'm Jewish and it's Passover. It's really the 10 requirements for a water project. And those are on our website, but the number 1, the very first one is, do you have raw water available? This seems like a stupid question, but a lot of people say, yeah, we don't, we're just drought. You know, we wait for the rain. We rainwater harvest. So no, the answer is you don't have raw water 365 days. So then what we do is we have to go and see, okay, well, we may have to drill. This isn't going to be a $25,000 project. This is going to be more like a $60,000 project, which is what it was in the Mara and what it was in India, where we had to drill and we had to build a building. You know, we had nothing. We had to start from scratch. So that's more like a $60,000 project. So first we have to get a hydrology report done. We have to do a lot of homework before we can decide to commit to that project. And the very first thing is about the water. The second thing is really almost political. Do the elders or the leaders or the political people in that province or that community, will they allow for a water plant to be put into their village? And preferably, would they allow it to raise money for that community's social services through the sale of water? It wouldn't, you know, like in a hospital, that's not going to happen. So we'll go and we'll do that. But all the other installations, we like it to be fomenting and fostering self-reliance. So there's 10 of these kinds of things. And then the very last covenant in all of our MOUs has to do with, if you break any of the covenants, for instance, if any individual is found to be swiping the money, right, and not having it being used through good governance for the benefit of the entire village, like if somebody buys a car on their own or they wind up in Paris, you know, then we will come in and we'll remove the system. And they have to sign off on this MOU. And it's either the mayor of the community or the elders of the tribes or whatever. So great question. Any other questions? Jim? You look like you know, you can't tell, but I have your beard and your glasses and your hair. So you could be my twin. Do you have a question? Okay. All right. Well, listen, at my website, there's lots of content. My email address is simple to remember. It's jon@h2opendoors.org, or you can contact me on the Facebook page. I'm open to conversation whenever you have it. Any questions, email me, text me, contact me through the website or through the Facebook page. And if you want to have a good read, check out Long Walk on a Dry Road. Thank you so much for giving me this time today. And I look forward to seeing, maybe I'll be seeing you, many of you, in May. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night. Stay safe.
Yeah,
Wash your hands.
Thank you, everyone, for calling in. Thank you. Nice to see you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Welcome.